All 7 people were on trial for a crime as terrible as you can imagine. They were accused of killing babies. As the trial started, you could almost cut the air with a knife because it was so filled with anger and sadness. These parents, who had lost so much and were so angry, showed that not even the serious setting of a courtroom could protect the accused from their anger. What happened next was a huge confrontation that left everyone there completely shocked. Number 7. Klaus Grabowski. March 6, 1981. Something intense went down in a courtroom in Lübeck, West Germany. Marianne Bachmeier was a mom who took matters into her own hands in a shocking way. She shot Klaus Grabowski, the man who had brutally killed her 7-year-old daughter, Anna. This happened right in the middle of his trial for kidnapping and murdering Anna. Anna's terrible ordeal started when she was tricked into going to Grabowski's house, thinking it was safe. Later, she was strangled with pantyhose, and her body was stuffed into a cardboard box and dumped by a canal. Grabowski, who was 35 and had a full past of creepy crimes, got caught because his fiancée turned him in. His confession was horrifying. He claimed that little Anna tried to blackmail him. The trial got even stranger. Grabowski's defense claimed he did what he did because of messed up hormones from a hormone therapy he had after choosing to be castrated. This bizarre excuse just made Bachmeier even angrier. By the 3rd day of the trial, she had had enough. She smuggled in a .22 caliber Beretta and shot Grabowski 6 times, killing him on the spot. Right after, she said she did it on purpose and felt relief that he was gone. Marianne Bachmeier's drastic action sparked a huge media frenzy and a lot of debates. Some people saw her as a heartbroken mom who was let down by the legal system, while others thought she went too far and undermined the law. In the end, she was found guilty of planned manslaughter and having a gun illegally. She was sentenced to 6 years but only served 3. Number 6. Deshaun Brown. On a super hot day in Hamilton County, Ohio, there was a lot of tension and sadness in the courtroom. It was June 23, 2022, a day people will never forget. Deshaun Brown was in court for a serious case. He was accused of killing 3-year-old Nilo Lattimore and his mom, Nitisha Lattimore. But things got intense when Tonio Hughes, who was devastated and angry over losing his son and Nilo's mom, couldn't hold back his emotions. He rushed at Brown and started punching him until the deputies managed to pull him off and calm things down. This whole sad situation started back in December 2020. Brown allegedly did something awful. He was accused of stabbing Nitisha Lattimore at her own place and then throwing her body into the Ohio River. Even worse, he was also accused of throwing little Nilo into the river while she was still alive. Sadly, Nilo's body was never found, but they did find his blood on a blanket near where his mom's body was left. When Hughes attacked Brown in the courtroom, it wasn't just a sudden outburst. It was a dad reacting to the terrible pain of losing his young son. The court was quick to act, and Hughes had to spend a week in jail for his actions. The judge made it clear that such behavior wasn't allowed in court. Brown is still going through the court process and faces serious charges for what he's accused of doing. Number 5. David Matswani. In a Merced County courtroom, which usually has this heavy, serious vibe, an unexpected act of violence happened right before 18-year-old David Matswani's court appearance. He was there to face charges for the really sad murder of a 9-month-old baby named Darius King Grigsby, who was shot while in a stroller on November 9th. Now, as David sat there handcuffed and pretty much defenseless, another inmate, James Clay McRae, who was also in handcuffs and wearing the typical orange jail outfit, decided to take matters into his own hands. He snuck up behind Matswani and hit him in the head with his elbow, which totally threw the courtroom into chaos. The officers jumped in super quick, tackled McRae, and cleared out the courtroom. The place was filled with tension, and you could almost feel some people, especially the family of little Darius, didn't exactly mind what happened. Darius's mom, Monica Ayala, even said out loud that she thought Matswani got what he deserved. James McRae, who was already facing his own murder charge from another case, seemed angry, and his attack looked like he was trying to dish out his own kind of rough justice. As for Matswani, he was caught after a big manhunt that stretched from Merced to Gilroy. Now he's staring down some serious charges, including first-degree murder and attempted murder, and he's looking at a trial that could lock him away for life. Number 4. Quinn Bowes. 2019. A courtroom in Indiana saw the closure of an awful case. Quinn Bowes, a dad, was sentenced to 25 years because his 11-year-old son, Parker Bowes, died from serious injuries to his head back in May 2018. The whole place was charged with emotion as they were taking Quinn out of the courtroom. Then, out of nowhere, Parker's uncle, Jeremiah Hartley, couldn't hold back his grief and anger anymore. He punched Quinn right in the face. That punch wasn't just from him, it felt like it came from the whole family's pain. Quinn was totally caught by surprise, and he ended up stunned and bleeding while the court officers quickly tackled Jeremiah and took him into custody. For that burst of emotion and hitting Quinn, Jeremiah got a 179-day jail sentence for disrupting the court. The sadness in that courtroom was just so heavy as they wrapped up the case. Quinn Bowes ended up making a plea deal, which meant he would spend 20 years in jail and then be on probation for 5 more years. He also has to pay for his son's funeral expenses. That day in court was more than just the end of a legal case. It showed the deep, lasting hurt that the family will carry forever because of what happened. It's hard to wrap your head around why a father would do such a horrific thing to his own child. It seems like Jeremiah never trusted him with the baby in the first place, knowing that Quinn had faced physical abuse when he was young. But it's heartbreaking that such a terrible cycle of violence affected such an innocent little boy. Number 3. Clifford Thomas. In a Detroit courtroom back in 2015, a scene of profound tragedy unfolded that stuck with everyone there. Clifford Thomas and his girlfriend, Jasmine Gordon, were on trial because Jasmine's 3-year-old daughter, Jamila Smith, had died under really terrible circumstances. As the trial was about to wrap up, Jamila's dad, Dwayne Smith, was there to speak about how much Jamila's death had hurt him, but Dwayne couldn't hold back his pain and anger as things moved along. He suddenly rushed up and punched Thomas right in the head, a powerful reaction to the terrible loss of his little girl. The security guards quickly stepped in, holding him back while everyone else in the room was just shocked. Back in September 2014, Jamila was taken to the hospital by her mom and Thomas, and it turned out she was a victim of homicide. The poor little girl had bruises all over her head and chest, clear signs she had been badly mistreated. This heartbreaking discovery led to both Gordon and Thomas being found guilty. Gordon got a sentence that added up to a lot of years for manslaughter and child abuse, while Thomas also got a pretty lengthy sentence for manslaughter and for trying to mess with the police investigation. Even though Dwayne's reaction in court was so sudden, the judge decided not to charge him for it, recognizing just how much he was suffering. However, Dwayne wasn't allowed back in the courtroom after that. The judge's decision tried to keep things orderly, but also showed an understanding of the deep emotional turmoil Dwayne was going through. A dad left devastated by a horrible event and feeling let down by the justice system. Number 2. James Henderson. 2017. In a courtroom in Cuyahoga County, an intense moment went down. Delray Sanders was there to face James Sparks Henderson III, the guy who had admitted to a horrifying crime back in November 2014. Henderson had killed Delray's pregnant sister, Sharita Johnson, and 4 others, including Sharita's best friend, J. Rio Taylor, Shaylana Williams, Lemon Bryant, and even Sharita's unborn baby. As Delray stood up to give his speech about how this tragedy affected him and his family, you could feel the tension ramping up in the room. His words were full of sorrow and anger. Then things escalated quickly when Delray thought he saw Henderson smirking at him. Overcome with emotion, Delray lunged at Henderson in a burst of grief and fury. The court officers had to jump in fast, holding back Delray and taking him out to calm things down. They even had to pause court for a bit to get everything back in order. Henderson was caught 6 months after the murders, still with the murder weapon on him. He was charged with some really serious stuff like aggravated murder and robbery. In the end, the court gave him 5 life sentences back to back with no chance for parole. That meant he was going to spend the rest of his life in jail. While it's tough to justify Delray's reaction, it's understandable how seeing the guy who hurt his sister smirking could set him off. But justice was served in the end. Hopefully, we won't see more people like Henderson out there, and Delray's family can find some comfort in the verdict. Number 1. Ryan Burge. In Vancouver, Washington, back in November 2018, the sanctity of the courtroom was shattered by the raw anguish of a father. Peter Anderson was there facing Ryan Burge, the man accused of horribly killing his 5-year-old daughter, Hartley Anderson. Burge, 37, was charged with first-degree murder because he supposedly caused fatal injuries to little Hartley while he was supposed to be looking after her. The courtroom was charged with sadness and anger, filled with family and friends wearing #JusticeForHartley t-shirts. As the prosecutor went through the terrible details of how Hartley was hurt, Peter's sadness quickly turned to fury. He couldn't hold back and tried to rush at Burge, wanting to make him pay right then and there. But the deputies were quick to hold him back, and they handcuffed him and took him out while his cries filled the room. It was just 2 weeks after Hartley had turned 5 that this tragedy happened, highlighting the horror she went through. There was clear evidence of a struggle in the apartment she lived in with her mom, Natasha Lachaud, and Burge, who was her mom's boyfriend. The walls were damaged, and you could see where the violence had happened. This burst of emotion in the courtroom showed the deep pain and fierce anger Hartley's family and friends were feeling. As they let Anderson out, his actions were a powerful show of a father's deep grief and a strong desire for justice. Meanwhile, Burge was left to face the severe consequences of his actions, held on a $5 million bail, waiting for what the law would decide next.